I'm standing in the emergency department at Vancouver General Hospital, my hands still shaking from the adrenaline of saving a cardiac arrest patient, when my phone buzzes with a text from my mother. Family dinner tonight. 6 p.m. sharp. Your father and I need to discuss your future. I know exactly what this means. They've found out about Marcus. My name is Sarah Chen, and I'm a second-year emergency medicine resident. 28 years old, drowning in student debt, working 80-hour weeks, and somehow still finding time to fall in love with the wrong person. At least, that's what my mother thinks. Let me back up 6 months to explain how I got here. I met Marcus Thompson on a Tuesday night shift during a multi-vehicle collision on the Trans-Canada Highway. I was the receiving resident, and he was the paramedic who brought in the most critical patient. While I was frantically trying to stabilize a woman with a punctured lung, Marcus calmly gave me a detailed handover that included observations I hadn't even thought to check yet. His assessment was flawless. His voice was steady, and when our eyes met over that patient, something clicked. "You're good at this," I told him after we'd saved her life. He smiled. "So are you, Dr. Chen." We started running into each other more often after that. Coffee in the hospital cafeteria at 3 in the morning. Quick conversations during patient handovers. He'd remember details I'd mentioned weeks ago, asked about my research, actually listened when I talked about the cases that haunted me. 3 months later, he asked me out properly. Took me to a small Vietnamese restaurant in Richmond, where they knew him by name. We talked for 4 hours about everything except medicine, though somehow we kept circling back to it. He told me he'd been a paramedic for 8 years, that he loved the frontline work, being there in people's worst moments. "Don't you ever want to do more?" I asked. He gave me this enigmatic smile. "I do more than you might think." My mother, Victoria Chen, is the CEO of VitaPharm Industries, one of Canada's largest pharmaceutical companies. My father, Richard, sits on the boards of 3 hospitals. They built their empire together, and they expected me to inherit it. The plan was always clear: finish my residency, take a fellowship in sports medicine or dermatology, something civilized with regular hours, then transition into the chief medical officer role at VitaPharm. But I fell in love with emergency medicine. The chaos, the stakes, the raw humanity of it. Every shift felt like I was actually doing what I'd gone to medical school for. And then I fell in love with Marcus. I waited 4 months before introducing him to my parents. I knew it would be bad, but I underestimated how bad. We met at Hawksworth Restaurant, my mother's favorite. She was already seated when we arrived, reviewing something on her tablet, diamonds glittering at her throat. My father stood to shake Marcus's hand, his grip firm, assessing. "So, Marcus," my mother said once we'd ordered, "Sarah tells us you work in healthcare." "I'm a paramedic," he said simply, "with BC Emergency Health Services." The temperature at the table dropped 10 degrees. "A paramedic," my mother repeated, setting down her wine glass with precision. "How interesting." My father cleared his throat. "And what are your long-term career goals? Surely you're planning to further your education?" "I'm exactly where I want to be," Marcus replied. His voice was calm, but I saw his hand tighten slightly on his fork. "I believe in the work I do." My mother laughed. It wasn't a kind sound. "Sarah, darling, could we speak privately for a moment?" In the restaurant's lounge, she turned on me. "Are you out of your mind? A paramedic, Sarah. He makes, what, 60,000 a year? You're going to be a physician. You're throwing away your entire future." "He's a good man, Mom." "Good?" She laughed again. "Good doesn't pay for the lifestyle you're accustomed to. Good doesn't build a legacy. What happens when you're making 300,000 a year and he's still driving an ambulance? You think that won't breed resentment? Maybe I don't care about the money." Her eyes went cold. "Then, you're more foolish than I thought." Over the next 2 months, my mother launched a systematic campaign to end my relationship. She had her assistant accidentally send me job postings for cosmetic surgery practices. She invited eligible doctors to family dinners. She reminded me constantly about my student loans, my expensive education, the opportunities I was wasting. Marcus took it all with remarkable grace. "She loves you," he told me one night as we ate takeout in his modest apartment in East Vancouver. "She's scared. Give her time." But I was running out of patience. And Marcus sensed it. "Marry me," he said. I looked up from my pad thai, startled. "What?" "Marry me." He wasn't kneeling, wasn't making a grand gesture, just looking at me with those steady gray eyes. "Not because of your mother, not to prove a point. Because I love you. Because I want to build a life with you. Because every time I drop a patient off at your ER, I'm grateful that someone like you exists in this world." I said yes. My mother's reaction was exactly what I expected, only worse. She came to my apartment 2 days after I told her. Didn't even sit down. Just stood in my tiny living room, perfectly coiffed in her Chanel suit, and delivered her ultimatum. "If you marry this man, you are choosing poverty over family. You are choosing to struggle when you don't have to. And I will not subsidize this decision. I'm not asking you to. The trust fund your grandmother left you? Gone. The company shares in your name? Dissolved. Your student loans that we've been helping with? You're on your own. The emergency fund, the investment accounts, everything. You will inherit nothing from this family." My father stood by the door, silent. I looked at him, pleading. "Dad?" He wouldn't meet my eyes. "Your mother and I are in agreement on this. So, that's it? Choose the man you approve of or lose my family. We're trying to save you from a lifetime of hardship," my mother said. "You're making an emotional decision that will have financial consequences for decades. We raised you to be smarter than this. You raised me to be authentic, to follow my calling. I'm doing exactly what you taught me." She picked up her handbag. "Then you're teaching yourself a very expensive lesson. The wedding is in 3 weeks? We won't be attending. And Sarah?" She paused at the door. "When this falls apart, when you're drowning in debt and he can't help you, don't come crawling back." The door closed. I stood there, shaking, and texted Marcus. "She really did it." His response came immediately. "Are you okay?" "No, but I'm sure. Then we'll figure it out together." Our wedding was small. Marcus's parents flew in from Halifax. My best friend from medical school was my maid of honor. My brother, David, showed up despite my mother's threats, slipped me an envelope with $5,000 and whispered, "I'm proud of you." We got married at a community center in Kitsilano. I wore a simple white dress from Nordstrom, not the Vera Wang my mother had always imagined. Marcus wore a suit I'd never seen before, and he looked so handsome it hurt. When the officiant asked if anyone objected, my phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. "Final offer. Annul this marriage within 30 days, and everything is reinstated. This is your mother being generous." I turned my phone off and said, "I do." At the reception, Marcus gave a toast that made everyone cry. "Sarah could have chosen comfort," he said, holding my hand. "She could have chosen approval. Instead, she chose truth. She chose to save lives in an emergency room rather than collect a paycheck in a boardroom. She chose love over inheritance. And I promise you all, I will spend every day earning that choice." My friend Rachel grabbed my arm during the first dance. "He's special, Sarah. Like, really special. There's something about him." "I know," I said, watching Marcus laugh with his father. What I didn't know was that she meant it more literally than either of us realized. The first 3 months of marriage were hard. My residence salary was $65,000 a year before taxes. Marcus made about the same. We moved into a 1-bedroom apartment in Burnaby, traded my leased BMW for a used Honda Civic, started meal planning to save money. My student loans were crushing. $400,000 from medical school, now without my parents' help on the payments. I'd lie awake at night doing math in my head, trying to figure out how we'd ever get ahead. But Marcus never complained. He'd come home from 12-hour shifts and cook dinner. He'd quiz me for my exams. When I broke down crying one night over my loan statements, he held me and said, "We'll figure it out. 1 month at a time." I tried to start a side income doing medical consulting work, helping lawyers understand cases. It brought in an extra $1,000 a month. Every penny mattered. My mother, true to her word, cut me off completely. She blocked my number. When I ran into her at a medical conference, she looked through me like I was a ghost. My father sent a brief email on my birthday. "Hope you're well." That was it. It hurt more than I wanted to admit. 4 months into our marriage, things started shifting at VitaPharm. My brother called me, breaking the silence my mother had imposed. "Sarah, something's going on with Mom's company. They're in trouble with a new drug approval. Some trauma medication they've been developing for 5 years. Health Canada and the FDA are both pushing back, saying they need more independent research data." "What kind of drug?" "Something about rapid hemorrhage control. It's supposed to revolutionize trauma care, but the clinical trials are messy, and they need a respected researcher to validate their findings. Mom's losing her mind trying to find someone credible who'll review it fairly." I felt a pang of something. Not quite satisfaction, but vindication maybe. "That's not my problem anymore, David." "I know. I just thought you should know. The company's stock has dropped 20%. If this drug doesn't get approved, VitaPharm could be in real trouble." After we hung up, I told Marcus about it while we made dinner in our tiny kitchen. "Hemorrhage control medication?" he said, pausing while chopping vegetables. "What's it called?" "Hemostat 9 or something." "Why?" He got quiet for a moment. "Just curious. That's an important area of research." I noticed he did that sometimes. Got intensely interested when I mentioned medical developments, asked specific questions that seemed beyond casual curiosity. I'd catch him reading medical journals that I'd left out, making notes in the margins. "You really love this stuff, don't you?" I asked once. "I like staying informed," he said. "I see a lot in the field. It helps to understand what's coming." There were other small things I noticed. The way ER attendings would sometimes do a double take when they saw him. How he'd occasionally use terminology that seemed advanced for a paramedic. The time I saw him in a suit at the hospital and asked why, and he said vaguely, "Meeting." "What kind of meeting?" "Just some boring protocol stuff." But I was too exhausted, too focused on my own survival, to dig deeper. Month 5. I got a call from the hospital administration. There was a research opportunity, a chance to contribute to a multi-center trauma study. It paid a small stipend and would look good on my CV. I jumped at it. The principal investigator was someone I'd never met, a Dr. M. Thompson, who apparently worked out of a research facility affiliated with UBC. The coordinator assured me I'd meet him eventually, but for now, I'd be working with the database and patient recruitment. "Thompson's kind of a phantom," another resident told me. "Brilliant researcher, but he's almost never at the hospital. Does a lot of field work or something." The 6th month of my marriage, everything changed. It started with Marcus coming home one evening looking stressed. I was studying at our little kitchen table, and he sat down across from me. "There's something I need to tell you," he said. My heart dropped. Those are never good words. "Okay?" "There's a meeting tomorrow, at VitaPharm, about the Hemostat 9 drug your mother's company is developing. Health Canada has requested an independent expert review before they'll consider approval." "Okay, why are you telling me this?" He took a breath. "Because I'm the expert they've requested." I stared at him. "What?" "Sarah, I need to explain something. Something I should have told you earlier, but I had reasons, and He ran his hand through his hair. "I'm not just a paramedic." My mind was spinning. What does that mean? I am a paramedic. That's real. I do that work 3 or 4 shifts a month because I love it, because it keeps me grounded. But my primary job is research. I'm a trauma surgeon and researcher. I've been running a trauma research program for the past 6 years. I have a fellowship in emergency medicine and traumatology. I've published over 40 papers. I couldn't speak. "My full name is Dr. Marcus Thompson. The research study you're working on? That's my study. The Hemostat 9 drug that your mother's company needs approved? Health Canada specifically requested me to review it because my work on pre-hospital hemorrhage control is considered the gold standard in North America." You're Dr. M. Thompson? Yes. The Dr. Thompson whose papers I've been citing in my own research? Yes. I stood up so fast my chair fell over. Why didn't you tell me? At first, I didn't mention it because it didn't seem relevant. I was a paramedic when we met, that wasn't a lie. But then your mother made it clear she thought I was beneath you, that I was poor and directionless, and He stood too, reaching for me. I needed to know you loved me for me, not for my credentials or my income or what I could provide. After what she said, if I'd told you I was actually Dr. Thompson with a research grant and a surgical fellowship, would you have ever been sure of your own feelings? That's not fair. Maybe not. But Sarah, your mother told you I'd never be able to support you, that you were choosing poverty. I needed you to make that choice authentically. I needed you to know that even if I really was just a paramedic making $60,000 a year, we could build a good life together. So you let me suffer? You let me lie awake worrying about money when you were making what, $300,000 a year? 280, actually. And no, that's not what I did. I put that money into savings. I lived exactly the way you saw. That wasn't fake. I don't care about the money, Sarah. I never have. But I care about you knowing that you married someone real. I wanted to be angry. Part of me was angry. But another part understood. The meeting tomorrow, I said quietly. My mother doesn't know, does she? No. The request went through Health Canada. VitaPharm just knows that Dr. M. Thompson will be reviewing their drug. I use my first initial professionally to maintain some separation between my research work and my field work. What are you going to tell her? The truth about the drug. That's my job. I reviewed their data, Sarah, and there are problems. The clinical trial design has flaws. The safety data is incomplete. If I'm being honest, it shouldn't be approved yet. But if you reject it, her company. I know. His eyes were sad. But I can't approve a drug that might hurt patients just because the CEO is my mother-in-law who hates me. The next morning, Marcus put on a suit I'd never seen before. Charcoal gray, perfectly tailored. He looked like a different person. No, not different. Like himself. But a version I'd never fully seen. Do you want me to come? I asked. No. This needs to be professional. But Sarah? He kissed my forehead. Whatever happens today, we're okay. You and me, we're okay. I went to the hospital for my shift, but I couldn't focus. I kept checking my phone. At 2 p.m., David called me. Sarah. Holy shit. Your husband just walked into the VitaPharm boardroom. I know. You know? Sarah. Mom's face when they introduced Dr. Marcus Thompson, the leading expert in trauma care, and your husband walked in? She looked like she'd seen a ghost. Dad actually dropped his pen. What happened? He's presenting right now. Sarah, he's dismantling their entire study. He's pointing out flaws in the methodology, problems with the safety data, questions about the dosing protocols. He's doing it respectfully, but he's not pulling punches. Mom looks like she's going to be sick. Is the drug dangerous? No, he said it has promise. But he's recommending they do additional trials, refine the formulation, and resubmit in a year. It's going to cost the company millions and delay everything. But Sarah? He's right. I'm sitting here looking at the data he's presenting, and he's absolutely right. If they'd pushed this through, people could have been hurt. I closed my eyes. Tell me what she's doing. She's just sitting there. She hasn't said a word in 20 minutes. I think she's in shock. The meeting lasted 3 hours. Marcus came home at 6 p.m., looking exhausted. How bad? I asked. Bad, but necessary. He loosened his tie. The drug has potential, but the trial design was rushed. They were trying to get to market before a competitor. But the dosing protocol could cause complications in patients with certain clotting disorders. They need to go back, do it right. My mother didn't say a word to me, just stared. Your father tried to ask a few questions, but even he seemed shaken. We made dinner in silence. I was processing everything. The revelation about Marcus, the meeting, what it all meant. My phone rang at 8 p.m. My mother. I almost didn't answer, but Marcus nodded at me. Take it. Hello, Mother. We need to talk. Her voice was brittle. Your husband has created a significant problem for VitaPharm. The board is furious. We're looking at a stock drop, delayed revenue, potential investor lawsuits. He did his job. His job? She laughed, sharp and humorless. His job as what, Sarah? We requested an expert review. We didn't expect to get the paramedic who married my daughter. He's not just a paramedic, Mom. But you never bothered to find out, did you? You saw the uniform and decided he was worthless. Don't be dramatic. He's Dr. Marcus Thompson. He has more publications than most of your senior researchers. His work is cited in every major trauma journal. Health Canada requested him specifically because he's the best. Silence. Then, quietly, I need to speak with him. Why? Because VitaPharm needs his help. If we're going to redesign these trials, we need someone who understands the science, someone Health Canada will trust, and apparently, that's your husband. So, let me get this straight, I said, my voice cold. 6 months ago, you told me Marcus would never be able to provide for me. You said he was directionless, that I was choosing poverty. You cut me off completely, didn't come to my wedding, blocked my number. And now you need him? Sarah, now you want to hire the man you called worthless? The man you said would drag me down? I didn't know. You didn't want to know. You saw a paramedic and assumed that was all he was. You saw someone who didn't fit your image of success and decided he wasn't worthy of your daughter. You never asked about his education, his work, his goals. You just judged. This isn't productive. You want to talk to Marcus? Fine. But Mom? I don't forgive you. Not yet. Maybe not ever. You didn't just insult my husband. You insulted everything I believe in. You taught me that what matters is money and status and image. Marcus showed me that what matters is integrity and compassion and doing work that actually helps people. So yeah, he'll probably help you redesign your trials. Because that's who he is. He'll do the right thing even for someone who treated him like garbage. I hung up. Marcus was standing in the doorway. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. Over the next 2 weeks, VitaPharm formally contracted Marcus as a consultant. The fee was substantial, $75,000, for 6 months of work redesigning their clinical trials. Marcus agreed, on the condition that he maintained complete scientific independence. I'm not doing this for your mother, he told me. I'm doing it because if we can make this drug work safely, it'll save lives. That's what matters. My mother requested a meeting. Just the 3 of us. Marcus and I debated whether to go. She's your mother, he said. If there's any chance at reconciliation, maybe it's worth it. We met at a neutral location, a quiet restaurant in Yaletown. My mother looked older than I remembered, tired. She got straight to the point. I owe you both an apology. Go on, I said. I was wrong. About Marcus, about your career choice, about everything. I let my own fears and prejudices blind me to who he actually was. I saw a paramedic and assumed financial instability. I saw someone who didn't fit my expectations and decided he wasn't good enough for you. Why? Marcus asked. His voice was calm, curious. Why did that matter so much to you? My mother looked down at her hands. Because I grew up poor, Marcus. Really poor. Welfare poor. And I clawed my way up. Built VitaPharm from nothing. I never wanted Sarah to struggle the way I did. I thought I was protecting her. By cutting her off financially? Marcus said. By disowning her? I thought she'd come to her senses. That she'd realize. She trailed off. I was wrong. About so many things. I still love emergency medicine, I said. That's not changing. I know. And I'm starting to understand why. You're doing what I did, in your own way. Choosing meaning over comfort. She looked at Marcus. You showed her that was possible. And instead of being grateful that my daughter found someone who supported her dreams, I punished her for it. Mrs. Chen, Marcus said carefully, I appreciate your apology. But Sarah and I need time. You didn't just insult me. You tried to control her life, and when she chose her own path, you abandoned her. That's not something we can just forget. I understand. And for the record, he continued, I would have helped Sarah whether I made 60,000 or 6 million. That's what partnership means. Your assumption that I couldn't support her financially was wrong, but your bigger mistake was assuming that financial support is the only kind that matters. My mother nodded slowly. You're right. We didn't reconcile that night. I told my mother we needed space, that maybe in time we could rebuild something. But I wasn't ready to just forgive and forget. Marcus and I went home to our small apartment. He'd told me that week that he wanted to look for a house, that we could afford it now that I knew about his actual income. What do you think? He asked as we got ready for bed. About the house? About everything. I thought about it. About the last 6 months of struggle and stress. About learning who Marcus really was. About standing up to my mother. I think I'm glad it happened this way, I said finally. If you'd told me from the beginning that you were Dr. Thompson, I would have always wondered. And if my mother hadn't cut me off, I wouldn't have learned that I could actually survive without her approval. So, no regrets? Only one. I wish you'd told me sooner about your work, not because of the money, but because I want to know everything about you. The paramedic work, the research, all of it. That's the partnership I want. Then that's what you'll get. No more secrets. 6 months later, Marcus and I bought a townhouse in North Vancouver. I finished my residency and accepted a position as an attending in the emergency department. Marcus continued his research work and his occasional paramedic shifts. My mother and I speak now, carefully, with boundaries. She attended my residency graduation. She sent a congratulations card when Marcus's research won a national award. It's not the relationship we had before, but maybe it's a more honest one. She asked me once if I'd forgiven her. I don't know yet, I told her honestly. You hurt me deeply, Mom. You made me choose between your love and my own happiness. That's not something I can just get over. I understand, she said quietly. I'll wait as long as it takes. The truth is, I'm still angry sometimes. Angry at how quickly she dismissed Marcus, how easily she cut me off, how her love came with conditions. But I'm also grateful, because her ultimatum forced me to realize something important. I don't need anyone's approval to live an authentic life. Not my mother's, not society's, not anyone's. Marcus taught me that saving lives comes in many forms. Sometimes it's stopping bleeding in an emergency room. Sometimes it's conducting research that makes medicine safer. Sometimes it's being a paramedic who provides comfort in someone's worst moment. And sometimes it's simply showing someone that they're enough, exactly as they are. My mother thought Marcus was worthless because of his job title. She thought I was throwing away my future by choosing him. What she didn't understand is that he wasn't choosing for me, he was supporting me in choosing for myself. That's worth more than any inheritance. If there's anything I learned from this whole experience, it's that real wealth isn't in trust funds or stock portfolios. It's in finding someone who sees your value beyond your credentials. It's in doing work that matters, even when it's hard. It's in choosing authenticity over approval. My mother built an empire by fighting for what she believed in. She just forgot that sometimes what we need to fight for is the freedom to define success on our own terms. Marcus and I are building our own empire. It looks different from my mother's, smaller, maybe, but it's ours. And that makes it priceless.